Okay, we are live. Welcome to the City Council's long-named a Policy, Finance, and Infrastructure Committee meeting, and I'm going to turn it over to our City Manager, Deborah Campbell.
Yes, and I'm going to turn it over to Jay Dundas, who supports this.
He's going to turn it over.
He's going to turn it over to Lindsay Spangler.
How far can we take this?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Jay Dundas, Assistant City Manager. So today we're here for the October 28th Policy, Finance, and Infrastructure Committee meeting. We are going to start out with a presentation. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes.
All right, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, so the second item on the agenda is a fiscal 25 audit and update, and fiscal 26 first quarter financial report. This is going to be presented by Becky Ogles and Lindsay Spangler. This report has typically been on the manager's report in the past, but with the advent of this new committee meeting, and we're going to shift this, I think, in the future to this meeting. So with that, I will turn it over to Becky.
Thanks, Jade. Good afternoon, Becky Ogles, Assistant Finance Director. So I'm going to give you an update where we are with the fiscal year 25 audit, and then I'm going to pass it over to Lindsay to do the budget side of things. So just some key takeaways. So we have actually been underway with the audit since, I think like April. We do plan to present the results at this meeting on December 9th. Completion of the audit, we do have to submit it to the LGC, and that's critical to maintain our debt ratings and to be able to issue debt.
The LGC is the Local Government
Commission. Sorry. Yes. So overall fiscal year 26 first quarter revenues and expenses are generally performed as expected. It is still very early on, so it's hard to make predictions or projections as to where we will end at the end of the year. And as you guys know, Tropical Storm Helene recovery, both spending and getting that money back continues to be a priority for us. So, as I mentioned, we actually started our audit back in June. This is just kind of a timeline of what we have done to date. We are honestly working on financial statements right now. I've reviewed 2 drafts. It is with the auditors for a final review, and as I mentioned, we will present to you guys in December. So we did our actual kickoff with Cherry Beckert, who I think has been our auditors for the last 3 years. We have a 5-year contract with them. In June, every year they audit our grants. It's part of the single audit program. This year they are looking at FEMA Public Assistance, Home, CDBG, and FTA, which is all of our transit grants. On the state side, they are looking at Powell Bill and also the state cash flow loan that we just recently got. This just kind of talks about some of the things that we've already done. They look through all of our processes, document our procedures. We get them a trial balance. And then as where we are right now, as I mentioned, there is a lot of back and forth over the draft, the numbers, just looking at everything. And of course, the final step is the submission to the LGC. We have hit a little bit, a little bit of a roadblock. Unfortunately, for single audit, we get guidance from a guidance supplement from the federal government that was not put out before the government shut down. So that is going to, unfortunately, delay just the single audit side of things. We are still working to get the financial statements completed, but the grant kind of supplement that we put in there, it is going to have to wait until that supplement is released. I actually talked with our auditors this morning, and unfortunately, there's been no word on when that might happen. So, and that's kind of all we've got on audit. Any questions before I pass it off to Lindsay? Great, thanks.
Thanks, Becky. Hi, everyone. Lindsay Spangler, Budget and Performance Manager. All right, so I'm just going to give everyone a quick update of how we've been doing so far the first quarter of the fiscal year. For those watching at home, that's July, August, September, that's the first quarter. So it's still very early in the year, so there's not a lot of data available yet. Right now, we're expecting for the general fund that everything is kind of expected to be on target so far. There's a few exceptions to that are, slight questions, again, because we don't have a lot of data yet. We'll talk a little bit about sales tax, talk a little bit about spending and what we can expect for the rest of the year. And in general, we are expecting to have to use about $1.7 million in fund balance at the end of the year, which is an estimate, and that compares to the $2.2 million that we had budgeted. So it's a little bit less that we're expecting to use. So taking a look at the revenues, not a lot of property tax payment data yet. Most payments are made closer to when property taxes are due in January, so we'll have more info on that soon. We also haven't received any sales tax revenue yet because that is collected on a 3-month lag. In general, last year's collections were about 2% below prior years, so we do expect to do better this year because as we get further away from Helene, our economy is recovering better, but it still might come in a little bit below budget due to what we're seeing in the economy. On the enterprise side of things, everything is kind of trending similar to prior years. One very minor flag that we will just bring to this group is the parking fund. Revenues are slightly below a quarter of a year's budget, so they're at about 19% right now. I think that can likely be explained due to the construction that's happening at some of the garages and the fact that tourism is still bouncing back after Helene. Moving over to the spending side of things, right now things are tracking kind of as expected. We are expecting perhaps some additional personnel costs on the APD side of things. This is due to increased coverage at community centers, which we're having APD cover right now, and also due to improved recruitment efforts. APD has done a great job recruiting new officers, which is amazing, and so we got to spend money on them, so that's great. Also, we are keeping an eye on tariffs and how that's affecting any increases to materials budgets that we might experience. And we're also monitoring healthcare costs. Last year, we ended the year higher than we were expected to, and so we're kind of, monitoring spending over the course of the year to make sure that we're okay for the current year. And unless there are any further questions on what I presented, I will turn it over to Becky to talk about the Helene spending.
I did have a question about the parking fund.
Sure.
The slightly under Q1 targets of 19%, like what ballpark of dollar amount is that?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'll get you the answer to that. I don't have it in
Yeah,
front of me.
just kind of the relative scale would be helpful. Thanks. Yeah.
All right, I'll turn it over to Becky.
So as I mentioned, spending for recovery projects and getting reimbursements is a high priority for us. So we just kind of wanted to show you guys kind of where we stand to date. What we've spent, category A and category B, of course, that's debris and emergency measures. So that is stuff that we spent very early on in the disaster. Permanent repair projects, that is stuff that, rebuilding what we had, and then we kept the water project separate, since that's such a big, major undertaking for the city. We do just want to remind you guys that we did get that $23.2 million obligated for the pretreatment of the water facility, and to date we have gotten reimbursed about $5.1 million. I do anticipate doing another reimbursement request to the state actually next week for some of those water projects.
So, and just to add the political component to this, So that 23.2 million was the money we had to do a kind of a full court press on to get obligated. And obligated is a weird term, but it means you're essentially guaranteed the money. However, not only has this administration implemented a situation where Secretary Kristi Noem has to approve any spending over $100,000. She has approved it, it is therefore obligated. But then the second new thing that we're seeing under this administration is then DOJ will send an email saying, this is in DOJ review. And that doesn't appear to mean you won't get the money. It means a delay in how long it takes the state to get the money and then for us to get the money, because these monies go through the state and then to us. So the state can see them all in the system, but they're not yet being cut a check. We have had, the governor and I discussed this with our congressional delegation in September when we were up there. They're very aware of this problem.
Yeah, and I do think these have been obligated, so the state does, I believe, have that money because they reached out and said as soon as we received invoices, we could go ahead and submit them
So
for reimbursement.
they've gotten it now then.
The
That's
state
great.
does have it, yeah, no, they actually.
They're
put
done with the DOJ.
I'm assuming they are.
And there isn't a time frame provided by DOJ, so we don't know how long that part takes.
Because they said that we were good to submit reimbursement as soon as we had invoices, and they would actually expedite them for us. So, and that's all we've got. So key takeaways again, we are almost done with our audit, and we will be presenting the results to you guys in December. Lindsay went over the first quarter of 2026, and we're performing as expected, and recovery remains a high priority for us.
I have a question on the recovery dollars. How are we feeling on cash flow, given this reimbursement cycle? And what happened if we're feeling good? Do we have indicators of when we would start getting nervous? I just want to anticipate as we continue to talk to peers in the region, this is just becoming dire for other municipalities. So I just want to be really aware of if we're getting to like a critical concern point and how we're tracking that. Just tell me more.
Yeah, so I mean, I monitor at least our main cash flow source, daily. I actually look at it on a daily basis. We're good. I would say, when large dollar contracts start coming through, which they will, we will continue to monitor it. We do have quite a bit of reserves though, so I think we should be good for a while. And especially with the 23 million that we got obligated, I mean, the state reached out and said they knew that these were going to be large dollar invoices that would be going out the door. And they said, call me the day that you submit it and we will expedite it for you. So I do think that at least they are trying to partner with us as much as possible. So I think we're good now. We will continue to monitor it. I'm not sure if I can tell you there's an exact time that we might be like, no.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the spending, just the monthly spending, how quickly we get some of these projects under contract and going. But right now, we're in a good spot.
And if we had not had the opportunity to get that 23.2 million,
That would have been.
that would have
Yeah,
been
a really big-
major cash flow challenges for us
Yeah.
or potentially
No-go.
failure. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
we couldn't have
Yeah.
provided the level of service that we are providing to have clean drinking water.
Because that 23 is on top of this 30.
So it gets, sorry.
Okay, all right,
So the
two- in the weeds,
23.2
sorry.
is
No, you're
obligated.
fine.
Right.
And I'll just talk about the water projects. So the 13 is what we've actually spent to date, and
Oh,
I
yeah,
believe
so it's
that includes,
projection.
yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I
No,
believe that includes about $4 million for the temporary pretreatment.
Yeah, I see.
And that is what I'm doing a reimbursement for next week.
Got it.
It's a reimbursement
For construction.
program just for the facilities, the temporary systems that are out there in Butry and North Fork.
Oh, but what about the cost to repair the water system?
So
Would
that is not included in here. I mean, it's definitely included in the total recovery cost of the 1 billion at the top. But honestly, we are still working through those contracts, so we are still unsure of what those final costs will be.
So like when we're
Oh, so-
looking at the 13 million, that's like that's like digging the hole for the water lines out of the treatment
No,
plant.
she's saying they haven't even figured those contracts out yet.
Nope, so the 13 million for the water projects is all of that. So 4 million is for the temporary pretreatment system that we have out at North Fork and Bee Tree. The remaining 9 was spent very early on replacing pipes.
So
and
some of it
Yeah,
is,
that's what,
So,
she's saying some of it
yes,
is.
so some of it is the I guess, is it permanent, Jay? The water lines? So that was done very early on in the recovery.
So, you know, I worry a little bit about putting this kind of a chart out there for the public to see because it's not reflective at all of what we've actually incurred in terms of costs related to the Helene. I mean, it sounds like what you're saying is there could have been a contractor who hasn't been paid yet, who we haven't even figured out what the final invoice is for them yet.
No, so I mean, everything,
Okay, maybe we're, because if someone were to say to you, how much did it cost to date to repair the water system, including our water department's expenses, our third-party contracts, our, you know, these other water departments are gonna be reimbursed, but I assume that goes to the state and it's not gonna come through our checking account. So, I mean, is there a way to answer that question, or we don't really know that yet?
so that is.
Tony's,
So that 13 million does include, so I think we got a little confused when we were talking about water repairs. So the water repairs that were done initially after the storm that included the pipes and reconnecting the system, yes, that is already captured, contracts are there, most of those invoices are paid, I would guess by now. So that is included in the 13 million. I think where Becky got a little confused was she was thinking about future costs related to additional repair work there and systems and things like that, and that is not definitely in that $13 million number. Does that help?
So Tony, in terms of the 30, almost 31 million, that cost include what we have spent to date out of city resources?
It's all money that has gone out the door already, so
Yeah.
contracts, invoices, everything.
Right.
Anything that will happen in the future, of course, is not.
right.
And the other column is unfortunately how much cash has been reimbursed to us. So we have a
Like a
huge
six.
deficit.
So for
Yeah.
example,
But we're okay
in the
floating
water
that for now.
number, 4 million of it is for the filtration system. Some of that, we actually owe more for what's already happened with the filtration system, but that's in that 23. And some of it is to get us through the end of November, which we haven't incurred yet, but that's in that 23.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 4 million, I believe, is for, unfortunately, for about 15 days worth, and we're waiting on invoices from those 2 contractors for the rest of it. And yes, my apologies, I thought you were talking about future
That's okay.
fixes to the system.
You navigated our confusing questions very well.
Anything else? Thanks.
Oh, great,
She can answer.
thanks.
All right, Council Member Ullman had a question about the parking fund. Their budget is about 7.1 million for FY '26, and so far we've received about 1.4 million in revenue, which is 19% of their budget.
Oh, I thought you said down 19%.
That's what I thought too.
Down 80%.
So like, it's been a quarter, so we expect them to receive 25%, right? Like a quarter of a year's worth of revenue.
When you made the budget, was the closing of the structures factored in, or are we facing something unexpected?
I think it was a little bit of a guess on both sides. I would say we worked with the parking folks to estimate based on, what they thought that they would receive for the year, based on closures. And, it's also really hard to predict because we aren't exactly sure what's happening with recovery since Helene and
Yeah.
how that's really shaping up. So I think that's kind of creating maybe a mismatch. But we still have a lot of the year. I think, those
6%
closures are not going to be for the full year. I think they're already complete.
Yeah,
Some are, yeah.
Was
Yeah.
that-
yeah,
So
both of them.
we should be making that up through the rest of the year, hopefully.
Everybody go park.
Thank you. Finance? Okay, I have the next presentation. This is a update on the city council's priorities, which were established in the council retreat earlier this year. I will say in preparing this presentation, a lot of staff inputs that were into this, and this is a big effort in just the day-to-day, but the recovery and how this all influences and adds to our progress. And so really give thanks to all of those that participated in the creating this presentation, but all the work that's gone into making it even possible. Key takeaways are creating and implementing a vision of a more resilient future requires focus and coordination. Staff have gathered information from multiple sources to develop a strategy that ensures that all projects advance City Council's vision and priorities. Through the use of an organizational work plan framework, which is how we're going about mapping out all of the work that we're doing in order to advance the priorities. Staff will track progress toward council goals and then we will come back and provide regular updates. Input such as the long-term recovery plan, Urban Land Institute recommendations, the annual capital budget, the 2024 general obligation bond, and previously adopted plans and ongoing operations all inform our action plan. So there's a lot of things that go into how we process and develop a path forward. And then implementation timelines will vary based upon the available resources, priorities, and projects complexities. As a reminder, City Council priorities that were created earlier this year were focused around people, housing, infrastructure, and environment, and economy. This slide represents, I guess I'll start on the bottom of the slide. This is the city's FY 2025-26 organizational work plan. This is just our system for being able to take all the inputs and create project scopes and really start working cross-departmentally and advancing the projects. But as you look on this throughout the slide, this is just a small representation of all of the information that we our process in order to help us to inform our day-to-day efforts and ultimately to advance council priorities. One of those plans that we're working on is the Buncombe County Long-Term Recovery Plan. This is very much a recovery-focused effort. It's a multi-jurisdictional effort coordinated through Buncombe County, but includes municipalities throughout the county. To date, council has received information on September 16th. The final draft was shared with city council and the public. That began the public comment period. Feedback was collected via the county survey and analyzed by county and city staff. So this has been a real collaborative effort through the entire process. And we're at a point where that draft document is being finalized and the update to city council will come to city council at the next council briefing. And then at the November 18th meeting, council will be asked to adopt the specific section for the city of Asheville. Again, the purpose of the document is to help the city of Asheville focus its efforts and prioritize recovery projects, and will serve as a guide for the community that will evolve as recovery progresses. So as we learn more, it's a flexible document that we'll be able to modify as we go.
And Jade, it's expected that the county will take action on that
Yes,
same
yes,
date.
ma'am. The county is adopting the full plan on on November 18th as well. Just a high-level summary is that the long-term recovery plan is just that. It's a long-term vision. It includes, from the city perspective, 19 projects that really align with infrastructure and environment. 4 projects that align with people. Economy is 5 projects, and housing is 6 projects. I will say that it's kind of hard to even align these because they do overlap into various areas, and you'll see that as we move forward in the presentation to the various boards, council committees. Another input that we've recently gotten information from is the Urban Land Institute, ULI, status update. And this is the recommendations they brought to us. An amazing effort that they quickly, we provided them with information about the Asheville in our situation, they came to Asheville, did a week's worth of surveys and engagement, and then came up with recommendations, which they presented on August 1st at Harris Cherokee Center. And that was the first view we had of their recommendations. Staff took this fairly extensive list of recommendations and sat down for an afternoon and processed those, reviewed all the recommendations, discussed alignment. There was an alignment. What I think was most amazing about that process is people who really didn't know Asheville came in and helped us with recommendations that do align to council priorities, existing project, and other city plans. Staff analyzed those recommendations and prioritized what to move forward, and then also really kind of considered the different timelines of the recommendations. Some are short-term, some are long-term, some will be ongoing throughout the next several years. This ULI will provide us with the final document at the end of November.
Jeter, oh, never mind.
Here are the 11 high-level recommendations, and I say those high recommendations because a lot of these had sub-recommendations and went into a lot more detail. Some of them are fairly specific with regard to implementation, others are more conceptual. And I'm happy to try to elaborate, but again, we'll be coming back to council with a more detailed version of this in a future council meeting. Like I said, from a concept standpoint, you look at number 1, build a legacy of resilience. It's throughout all of the work that we're doing. And then number 11, act quickly and boldly. I hope to represent in the next few slides how we are doing that, although government sometimes gets a bad rap for not being very quick. And relatives, sometimes we're not, but we do our best. Again, go back to the organizational work plan. You see all of those inputs that I've just mentioned. We have to have a way as staff to put this into a process that allows us to actually make meaningful progress. So what we've done is we've scoped all of the lighter blue color here. These are projects that we feel are going to help to advance the council priorities. You see them underneath their most representative focus area: housing, people, infrastructure, environment, economy. But again, as I said earlier, these do have a lot of crossover on these things. But then there's also projects underneath each one of these bubbles that are more specific to staff's day-to-day. So I'm going to pause there for a second and go over, I'll dive a little bit deeper into some of the projects that were in the lighter blue bubbles there, and some of the things that we've moved forward since the council provided these priorities. I will say that Walter Ear is coming to council tonight in the manager's report to do a deeper dive on specific capital projects. So Walter's prepared to share a lot of information. All right, so infrastructure and environment, the goal statements for this are rebuild infrastructure with focus on long-term resilience, even if it means a longer recovery timeline, improve water system resiliency, flood management, and stormwater infrastructure, reduce future risks, strengthen the city's ability to prepare for and respond to climate-related disasters, and then prioritize environmental sustainability, recognizing the impact and role of Asheville's natural resources in recovery. So the way that we feel like we're advancing this is through the Riverfront Revitalization Recovery Projects. You can see the 3 main projects here. We've also, again, like I said, there are many inputs and many associated plans with this. We did want to highlight those higher level ULI recommendations and how they apply. I feel like this, and again, there are probably others that could certainly be tagged to this. We feel like this reset of the economy through resilience, not replication, enhance resilience through expanded park space, and build a legacy of resilience, because we plan on investing in these parks in a way that makes them, not flood-proof, but able to sustain less damage in the future when future floods occur. Hazard Mitigation Grant Program is one that we've been working on. Council has seen information on this at several different council meetings. We have applied for $400 million of HMGP FEMA grant funding. The big price tag in there is the North Fork water system resilience. But you can see through this, these are a list of pretty substantial projects that really do focus on providing a more resilient future. Again, ULI recommendations: enhance water system resilience, build back an economic recovery and resilience, and then reset economy through resilience.
Can you remind me what open space management planning means?
I may need help on that one.
Okay.
Jamie, can you?
Follow up.
It's a hazard mitigation application to help us plan for the properties that we'll acquire through the acquisition process.
Okay, of the buyouts.
Yes.
Got it, thank you.
Which have to remain in open space.
Yeah.
They have to remain vacant.
Got it.
Yeah. Thank you, Jamie. Yeah, and just to elaborate, so the space, there is an acquisition program that's funded through acquisition, elevation, and stabilization program funded through the HMGP program. And then if those parcels are acquired through the federal program, the city, the jurisdiction, in this case, the city would get long-term ownership of those properties, but they have to be used in perpetuity as open space. So.
Another question on HMGP, just the general tenor around this program is that it takes forever. It takes forever for people to get bought out. But I also am curious if that applies to it, quote unquote, takes forever for us to get projects like these approved? Because on different conversations, it sounds like we might know this winter if enhancing development codes for resilient infrastructure gets approved. So at some point, and now if it's easy or later, just the best crystal ball estimates you have of like, will our requests also take a long time? Because ultimately the feds have to approve them. Just some insight into that would be nice.
Yeah, we could provide more details, but it is our understanding that the application evaluation and the turnaround of approval is a fairly long process. We are trying to supplement in the interim with other funding sources. So, for example, maybe it might take a long time to have a confirmation of the North Fork water system, but are there other funding sources that we can use in advance to advance like the design? So we're definitely trying to be strategic about the way we use all the available sources.
It would be helpful to know at some point along those lines, like if there's, like how long it takes us to learn that the project is approved versus funding taking this much longer time. I mean, if we know that it's going to be funded and it's approved, that would help us move it to the extent we can.
Okay.
I know that the funding issue is, I mean, we're being told it'll be faster this time around for this tranche of storms that was funded by Congress in December with this funding, but you know, it's hard to rely on that until we see the proof's in the pudding.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we get through the process, we obviously learn more, but I do believe we have some timelines that we can share with council that will help to illustrate that. And I would also, this is a good list of projects to show that we are advancing, you know, opening spaces back up. It's that Richmond Hill Park was, there's a lot of debris, but we're working diligently through the cleanup effort there and have reopened partially that park, temporary spaces for the dog park. It was a great kickoff there. And then the hockey rink is something that's in process right now. And it's a hockey skating rink, and then also disc golf as well in the municipal golf course. So, and then donation of, so I'd like to highlight for a second, council approved at the last meeting the donation of a playground equipment for Stevens Lee community. So even though we are focused on recovery, we have steady state work that we need to do, and it's really important to the community to be able to get this work done. As it is a factor of recovery as well. I mean, we need to really focus on the community as a whole. And so we're happy to say that we're advancing enhanced resilience through expanded park space and then also equitable access to green space and that outdoor environment. There's been a lot of discussion already on the water system, but I can say that it is moving and we're happy that it is being addressed. We have $23 million for the temporary water system that was mentioned, discussed earlier. Debris removal operations have started at North Fork, which is amazing. And then design and engineering for both plants for the permanent pretreatment system is something that council has approved and we're working on as we speak. Council approved EDA grant for the development of the planning activities location of a fourth plant. Yet again, another funding source that we're considering. There was a funding source passed on to us this morning, I think the mayor sent it, about that we could potentially use to enhance in other projects. Again, this is pretty clear. It enhances the water system resilience, and then rebuild tomorrow for resilient, rebuild today for resilient tomorrow.
I just want to share that I've been talking with community advocates who do a lot of work with land conservation, and knowing that our reservoirs are in permanent land conservation, just kind of asking questions about how debris removal is going. We know that the stability of our slopes and the preservation of those trees is super important for our water quality. And digging around, asking questions of essentially the group that we use to be our steward, a lot of the advocates think it's going really well. So that they feel like the plans that are in place that the water department is working with our land stewards are impressive and have high quality. So I just want to share that feels like really good news for something really essential for us.
Thank you for that. And
So
and
please
I
share with
my
water.
direct contact years ago with that conservation group was amazing. They're a really fantastic group to work with. So. Housing goals, help residents navigate post-disaster housing challenges by connecting them with available resources. I'm sorry, I should have paused for any questions on infrastructure. So housing, proactively address future displacement events, developing a disaster housing plan, support temporary and permanent housing solutions for displaced residents, leverage policy tools and partnerships where possible to expand housing options in the city and advance housing stability efforts such as home repair programs and regulatory flexibility and increased supply. Those were, again, all council's goal statements supporting this goal. It's been pretty remarkable to watch the colleagues at in CED work diligently, especially with the DR being a brand new thing for us, in all of the efforts that they've accomplished up to this point in time. I think that's one where you're acting boldly and active. I guess I can't remember exactly what the terminology was, but it's certainly an indication of the city moving at a pace that is with intention. So some of the highlights are $10 million bond funding allocated to WNC Affordable Housing Loan Fund, I think, without a D. And then the CDBGDR activities. I probably won't read all of that, but again, the ULI recommendations are targeted investment in legacy neighborhoods, housing choice, housing as an essential component of economic resilience, and then also act quickly and boldly. There's the statement right there.
Before we go, are we aware of any remaining funds from last year's rental assistance that we had allocated to partners? Is it everything fully spent down to our knowledge?
Yeah, we have to follow up on that.
And then the second would be, I know we talked about home funds for rental assistance potential for this year. When do those come on board? Do we know?
I don't off the top of my head, but we will certainly follow up with that information. Yes, ma'am. So the people goals, support residents recovering from disaster impacts while strengthening long-term community resilience. I think that should be a focus that for us throughout that is a focus for us throughout the entire recovery effort. But it's certainly something for us to remember every day. Ensure clear and consistent communication so people feel informed, engaged, and connected to resources. Strengthen neighborhood level preparedness efforts. And then also recognize that pre-existing vulnerabilities are amplified in disasters and work to address these disparities. Resilience hub mapping, again, I think about that as our one of the things that is in our organization work plan that we're focused on. RFP is posted for the mapping process there. Recovery boards development and appointments, which you have been hearing about and will continue to hear about as we move forward in today's information sharing. Hurricane response after action report, which was pretty Herculean effort for the fire department, the emergency management, to get us to a preparedness situation. And then also come back and do the follow-up was great effort on their part. And then delivery of reparations, final report, and recommendations. So again, the ULI associated recommendations are targeted investment in legacy neighborhoods. Continued community hubs. I think we're using resilience hubs, and then build a legacy of resilience as well. Questions? And then the economic goals, last goal area is the economic goals. Ensure the businesses impacted by disaster have access to resources needed to recover and rebuild. Strengthen outreach and support for businesses to ensure equitable recovery opportunities. Expand the city's contractor pool and improve capacity for recovery and future resilience projects. And enhance the Asheville's economy and strengthen resilience through a diversified and sustainable economic base. What's interesting about, and when I was reviewing these, is I think these are a good representation of a lot of early effort, but then it's also going to be us being engaged for a long time, like expanding the contractor pool and improve capacity for recovery and future resilience projects. That is so important for us today, but it is going to become increasingly more important as we get these projects to the contracting, as we start investing in homes and affordable housing opportunities. We really need to expand the contractor pool, and that's something we'll be working on over time. But early wins here are development of a CDBGDR action plan and policies and procedures document. That is so much been a very quick process, given the amount of effort that it's taken to get it to where it is today. Open streets and event support mini grants, downtown food truck pilots, which you've heard about over the last few weeks, and is very much appreciated for the city and county employees that work in these buildings. And then development liaison position. So this was a very specific and interesting recommendation from the ULI group. You can see it as the first listed recommendation, and staff is moving on trying to figure out how that helps, how to get that in place to help advance the development and reconstruction. Other ULI alignments are reset the economy through resilience, not replication, and build back an economic recovery and resilience. So that brings us to key takeaways. Again, I will not go through all of those again, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
2 questions. Go for it. Remind me the function of the development liaison, besides the title?
We're working through that, and we'll certainly share a job description as that becomes available. But effectively, high level, it would be to be able to help to navigate help people navigate the development processes of the city of Asheville. So, as there's questions, as there's conflicts, this will be the single source of information that, rather than trying to find your answers, this would be a guide to be able to help people find their answers.
Would that be specific just for recovery or at large?
That is an area that we're talking through. I think the main focus would be recovery, but we would definitely I don't think we can separate the two in that way that would allow them to be independent.
And then my follow-up was, is the FAST team still functioning? I've been hearing from some River District businesses that are very frightened about their run room on surviving and working really hard to follow all the rules, but feeling like they're getting really stuck in red tape. And I know that it's really important for our development services to follow the rules and not give preferential treatment. I think that's very important. And I'm hearing growing concerns of, is there a goal to support us to recover or not? Because it doesn't feel like it. So that's more just wanting to share some feedback and hoping that the FAST team is still working for them. But I'm hearing mounting frustration / despair.
I appreciate the feedback, and we'll certainly take that under advisement. But the FAST team, the answer is yes, it's still meeting. Beyond that, that's about my depth in the FAST team.
Is that development liaison in place, or it's a,
Not yet.
it's, okay, is it soon?
So Ben Woody, Assistant City Manager, so I'll jump in. The FAST team still meets. I think one of the differences is when we first formed the FAST team, a lot of their response was people who were still trying to decide whether or not to rebuild. So a lot of the people that use that process were just trying to obtain information to make important property decisions. I think we've moved into a second phase. Now we have people that, you know, a subset have just decided to apply for the HMGP funds, and that'll run its course for the buyout. But now we're seeing people that are in fact willing to rebuild in these areas. And so that's kind of another set of complexities. And the FAST team, I think, is kind of repositioning themselves, because that's a lot more of a complicated path forward in many ways. And that's where I think the development liaison will play an important role is, you know, we want to have an internal candidate fill that role because they kind of know the city and our processes. And I think they can help these businesses navigate those permitting requirements moving forward, because you have zoning, you have building code, but you also have a lot of complex flood and FEMA requirements too. So, and part of this development liaison is going to help the FAST team kind of I won't say regroup, but kind of pivot and be prepared for the next step in recovery, which really is the rebuild of private properties.
I want to echo support for the development liaison. In fact, in history, every time we used to have these like development forums to say, you know, what's the problem? Why aren't we getting more affordability in the city or whatever? Development liaison was brought up every single time. I remember Jeff Stottinger was our longtime housing community development. He did an exit survey development liaison. I mean, it was like, I've heard it so long. So I'm thrilled that it's coming through this. I do hope we keep it. And I really think it will help the businesses in this area. So sooner the better.
I do
It's
too.
kind of a
It's-
critical piece. Like sometimes I just get the call that says, I don't know what to do. Do you have any ideas? And I'll call Duke. Let me call someone at
Yep.
the city. And it's just that little bit of,
It's exactly what it is. It's
Yeah.
like an ombudsman. And I
Exactly.
you get a lot of those calls, Jade and I get a lot of those calls,
Yeah.
but we need somebody on staff that is,
it'll be so helpful.
they wake up every day with their mission to help
Yeah.
people navigate these processes and know the right people to call.
Yeah.
But
Um,
that liaison will
If I weren't
also have the
employed, I'd do it.
resources
Right.
of lots of departments, in particular,
Yeah.
development services, but can make those calls and
Right.
make those decisions.
Yeah.
Because I think that
So it would report to the
Hampers.
city manager's office.
Oh, wow.
And
Good.
so it would then be empowered to work with development services, public works, planning and urban design, to kind of navigate
That's great.
these challenges that exist.
Yeah.
But also beyond that, to be proactive, so they can be out with our design community, have a presence, you know, have
I
the
think
time to
that's
go
so
walk a piece of
important,
property
yeah.
or a building with somebody.
Because I think some of the challenges I'm also hearing are folks who have decided to rebuild and reopen, and they're not just doing the same thing they were before.
Yeah.
They're having to figure out how to start a safer business, and so maybe their land use is gonna evolve, you know. Second gear was a building, and now it's a hockey thing. Like, that's a
Yeah.
really different, that's a really creative, that's a really entrepreneurial approach, but that might not be cut and dry of what to do. And I think as more people get the resources to do the rebuilding, we're gonna see that. And so, yeah, I can imagine if
Yeah.
they had the chance to sit down and say, before I make this plan, talk to me about this, as
Yes.
opposed to now, where they've made the plan and they're like, let me get the permit, I thought I read it correctly, and then they're getting
That's
hung
right.
up. I know that we want everybody to get back to a better place, and there's some static energy that right now, it doesn't feel good.
There is, and I'd be remiss, I do want to say, that's not to say all of our staff in these departments, they all are empathetic and they are all working
Yes.
very
Yeah.
hard to be solution-oriented.
Yeah.
But sometimes the problems are just so complex and span so many different agencies or departments, you just need somebody that has the time or the extra time to kind of handhold a little more. So this isn't a response to staff not doing their job, it's proactively giving a resource to the community that has the time to spend with these business owners.
That's
So
great.
thank you.
busy.
Yep.
Thank you.
They will. They'll be so
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I know that staff were working so hard early on to, especially with our Haggerty consultants, to get some of the early process and paperwork done so that we could expedite once it was go time. And now that there's a government shutdown, just as a vibe check, are you noticing where we're starting to hit some log jams or funnels?
We're still getting good support through FEMA, and we're still reading on with them regularly. And so they have the staff, I don't know all of the details about that, but it's my understanding that is a service that continues to run through the shutdown. So really, we've not, and we're still working with Hagerty. They're still a really important partner, and quite frankly, the reason we're at the point that we are. If we'd had to learn all this without them, we'd be months behind where we are right now. So I feel like if there's any situation where we're seeing things maybe slow down, it's relative to the where we are in the actual process of project development. So, you know, designs have been approved on several projects right now. Although working with the public is progress, sometimes it doesn't feel like there's a lot happening. And so designers have to go back and actually process that information and produce a product. So, but I feel like we're still being pretty efficient.
Thank you.
Yep. And that's all I've got today. And so I'm going to turn it over to D. Tyrell McGirt to talk about the review of Infrastructure Recovery Board work planning.
Afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. I'm D. Tyrell McGirt. Serve as the Parks and Recreation Director here with the City of Asheville, but I also will be serving as the staff liaison for the Infrastructure Recovery Board. The presentation here today is just to kind of review where the Infrastructure Recovery Board will be picking up and getting started and what that would look like in its initial stages. But before I go any further, I just want to acknowledge and thank the clerk's office and legal department for getting us to this point. It is all their behind the scenes hard work with all of the infrastructure or all of the recovery boards that is creating this roadmap to get us started. So thank you, legal and clerk's office. Some key takeaways here are we will use the 4 priority recovery areas Council created as the foundation for the development of our work plans. The scope and work plans for the PFI committee is used to inform council recovery areas and goals. Policy consideration and ongoing administrative items from the PFI committee will serve as specific assignments for the Infrastructure Recovery Board. And again, this presentation outlines the initial work that the Infrastructure Recovery Board will be working on and demonstrate the alignment of the work that they're going to be doing with the work that you, the PFI committee, will be doing as well. So just as a reminder, our 4 recovery areas are people and environment, housing, infrastructure, and economy. These temporary recovery boards were created to support the recovery efforts following Tropical Storm Helene. Recovery boards are aligned with council recovery priorities. The recovery boards are slated to meet routinely for the next couple of years. So through June 2027, the goal and the plan is to continue to meet with all of the recovery boards.
We're not worried about that. Okay.
I know, right?
Okay, sorry.
The hurricane's not that close.
The work of the recovery boards, again, will align with the priorities that you, council, have created along with the work plans that you all are working from. And then any existing advisory boards will continue to provide their expertise, community input, and develop policy recommendations on an as-needed basis. So as things stand now, there are 6 commissions that are slated to be represented on the Infrastructure Recovery Board. Those commissions and advisory boards namely are Asheville-Buncombe Riverfront, Multimodal Transportation, Urban Forestry, Public Art and Culture, Sustainability Advisory, and Community Entertainment Facilities. The plan is that we will have representation from each of those named commissions with having either their chair, vice chair, or a designated board member serve as a part of the Infrastructure Recovery Board. in addition to the 5 at-large applicants that you all will make a decision on at the council meeting later today. So at the end of the day, the goal is to have 11 infrastructure recovery board members, 5 representing different boards and commissions, and then 5 at-large seats.
Before you move from the slide,
Yes.
I'm sorry I didn't catch this sooner, but I know the chair of the Urban Forestry Commission submitted a different designee for the Urban Forestry Commission, which is AJ Hardy. That email went. Okay. just
And
make
because
sure.
As
we still need to vote on the
Yeah.
appointees anyway, so.
That just hasn't been updated.
Kim, is
Thanks,
that
Maggie.
in lieu of Chris DeFiore?
Correct. In replacement of Chris DeFiore, it'll be AJ Hardy from the Urban Forestry Commission, which is also the Asheville Green Works Director. Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, no
Thanks.
problem. So related to infrastructure, your recovery goals can be summed up by your request to improve infrastructure and resiliency while including equity and engagement. So you want to review all infrastructure funding and plans to prioritize resiliency and sustainable investment that long-term will reduce our risk, that also foster equitable community and ensuring residents have the opportunity to be informed and actively engage in this policy-making process. There are a couple key crosswalk areas from infrastructure that include long-term recovery as well as CDBG-DR funding. You all have committed to the long-term recovery with a focus on rebuilding infrastructure that includes long-term resiliency. You all have committed to improving water system resiliency, flood management, and stormwater infrastructure. And then we have this unique opportunity with CDBG-DR funding to support water system improvements, stormwater management, arts and recreation, arts and cultural facilities, affordable housing, commercial district revitalization, and emergency shelter. So those are some of the things that you all are working on. As it relates to the Infrastructure Recovery Board, their goals and scope are to provide input on policy recommendations that focus on strategically rebuilding damaged infrastructure and long-term resiliency measures. Their goal is also to provide input on policy recommendations that that improve water system resiliency, flood management, and stormwater infrastructure. They also would be tasked to provide input on recovery plans for parks, greenways, recreation infrastructure that prioritize the identified large projects, and then long-term resiliency measures for parks enhancement, and support City Council by leveraging partnerships and potential funding programs. So our first steps, on November 4th, there's an orientation plan where we'll bring all 4 recovery boards together for an orientation. The mayor has already agreed to be a part of it by providing the welcome. In this orientation, we'll do an overview of the board framework. We'll look at legal considerations. We'll hear from the city clerk and do an overview, hearing from the clerk's office. And then we'll break out each of those recovery boards, do introductions in small groups, review their scope, look at the upcoming agenda items, and then adapt the regular meeting schedule. And then some of the things that we'll cover in our first meeting is all about educating and informing the board. Part of that educating and informing the Infrastructure Recovery Board includes taking a look at this committee's work plan for the next few months, adapting the rules and procedures, also electing officers. We'll take a look at all of the infrastructure recovery projects and understand the progress that has happened with those projects to date. So specifically, we'll look at the water infrastructure projects, parks projects, public works and transportation projects, We'll also talk about the funding opportunities that we have with this recovery effort. So diving deep into FEMA PA process, HMGP, as well as CDBG-DR funding. The main thing on the next agenda that this group will tackle is taking a look at the HMGP applications. So that's one of the things that's coming back before this committee in December. The committee or the board will have an opportunity to take a look and provide some feedback on the project selection. So the main goal here, again, was to take a look at the recovery board, specifically the infrastructure recovery board, take a look at how its work will be aligned with the work that you all are doing as a PFI committee, understanding that the priorities that you all are set are the priorities for the board, and then, again, the work that the committee is doing or the board is doing aligns with the direction from council. Any questions?
Thank you.
No one had any questions, I assume?
No.
Okay.
Alex Smith, Asheville City Clerk's Office. So we have, as you have in front of you, a number of board appointments in front of us for consideration. So, starting at the top of our list, for our Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, currently we have 2 vacancies on that board. Unfortunately, no applications were received by the deadline for the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, so the clerk's office is planning on re-advertising for that to hopefully garner some more applications.
Alex, are you going to go through them in order like we have them?
Isn't this on-
I just want to follow
Correct.
along.
Yeah.
Are we going over
I have a
Tonight?
question. We're not selecting any right now. Alex is just presenting on this.
Yeah.
So it'll save us time tonight, or we'll do it
So
twice.
let's,
Exactly.
So let's
Yeah,
do
to
it.
familiarize ourselves before the appointments are actually made at the formal meeting tonight. Next, we have the African American Heritage Commission. There's currently 1 vacancy on this board, and the vice chair recommends 2 different candidates, either Asunda McPeters or Christopher Gordon for appointment.
And
for
so the
each-
way I'm going to end up doing this in the meeting is I'm going to ask each council member to pick one.
For all of them.
Well,
No,
for
for
the
this
African American
they're
Heritage
all
one.
different. Every single one is
Everyone
a
is
different
different.
situation.
Okay.
All right, yeah, I just process, this is helpful, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
This is our practice run. Alex is going to
Totally
go through
fine.
it.
And if there's questions, please stop me along the way for any questions. Next, we have the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board. Our ABC board has 1 vacancy currently, Chapel Carter, and they are being recommended for reappointment to that board. They're eligible for that. That's a recommendation from both the staff and the chair for ABC board. The Ashwaubenon Riverfront Commission currently has 2 vacancies. Now, unfortunately, no applications were received for the Housing Authority seat, so the city clerk's office is planning on re-advertising for that seat. And for the seat reserved for an artist or art advocate, staff and the chair recommend Daniel McClendon for appointment for that seat.
And then advertise for the other.
For the Housing Authority seat, correct. We're going to advertise for that again. For the Audit Committee, there's 1 vacancy, and that's a seat reserved for a CPA or CPA retired. Unfortunately, again, no applications were received for that specific seat, given the specific criteria of it. So we will re-advertise for that as well. The Board of Adjustment has 2 current vacancies. That does have a requirement that any appointed member be a city resident. The staff and the chair recommend moving forward with James Warnall moving from an alternate seat as his current appointment on the board to fill the regular seat left by the vacancy of Chris Fernandes. And then for the other regular seat, they plan on re-advertise. They would like the city clerk's office to re-advertise. The Design Review Committee currently has 5 vacancies, a downtown reserved seat, 2
Can we
riverfront
talk about this
seats.
one a minute? Why did, I'm concerned.
Which one were you talking about?
Design Review
Design
Committee,
review.
and how
Oh.
many say eligible and not interested. eligible and not interested, eligible and not interested, eligible and not, like 5 times. What's happening? Is the committee not, I mean, no one wants to keep doing it.
For Robin
know?
Rains and Catherine, they both want to continue on their appointments on their respective committees. With
But, yeah.
with that, it's a dual appointment.
Is
so
there
they
any
serve on
feedback
both.
as to why everyone's not interested anymore?
Well, it's a little confusing, like,
They're
you
moving
have
to
one
different
that's
seats.
vacant, and it was Jeremy Goldstein, but yet
He's
Jeremy
moving to a
Goldstein
different
is
seat.
the recommended, yeah, so they're shifting around.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's
Jeremy-
just a newer committee, so I'm just
Mhm.
wondering if there's been any feedback about how it's going.
And when they indicated that they were not interested in reappointment, they did not provide the specific reasons for why they were not interested.
Do
Okay.
you know?
No, but I'm going to follow up. That's all
That's
right,
something
I'm
we can
just
definitely,
curious.
in the
Thanks.
future, ask for the rationale behind
Yeah.
why. And
Right, which is something that we did. Yeah, I'll look into it a little. I know them all.
But we have recommendations for 5
Yeah.
applicants.
Yep, yep.
And to your
Could-
question,
could
Mayor,
either be
about
one motion.
Jeremy Goldstein,
Just give me
he was
a-
not eligible to be reappointed to the Riverfront Board. He'd already served 2 full terms, so that was why he wasn't eligible to stay in that Riverfront seat. However, he could pivot and move to an at-large appointment for the Design Review Committee, which is in fact what the Design Review Committee Chair and Liaison were recommending him to move into one of the 2 at-large seat vacancies. And then the other person for the at-large seat vacancy that they recommend would be Gabriel Delarmy. For the Downtown Commission, they provided the recommendations for Stu Helm to replace Robin Rains. And for the Riverfront, the chair and vice chair recommended Joe Balkin and Eddie Dewey to fill the 2 designated Riverfront seats on the Design Review Committee. For the Downtown Commission, we have 1 vacancy currently, and the chair is recommending Eli Cunningham for appointment. Human Relations, there's 3 vacancies, and we have recommendations from the chair for Bobette Mays, David Logan, and David Evans for appointment. Just a note from the clerk's office, Bobette Mays is also currently serving as a member of the Neighborhood Advisory Committee, so that would be.
I saw that note, and I had some curiosity as the liaison to Neighborhood Advisory Committee that Bobette was the former chair, but I wasn't aware that she was still on the board. And I think that when Elise took over as chair, that Bobette might not be at the table anymore. So I just wanted to make sure that was up to date.
I'll double check. Thank you.
Additionally, because we're doing this new process instead of at boards and commissions, we're doing it here. Can you remind me when we have a situation like with HRC where we have 3 seats, but this board isn't meeting regularly, how you're asking for the process for tonight during the council meeting? Are we lifting up 3 names?
My plan was to do 3 barring any objections to that. So when I get ready to ask for a motion, if you object to the 3, say something before I entertain the motion.
Do we want to talk about it now, as opposed to then?
Do you want to talk about it now?
Does that make it easier for tonight when we have
Yeah.
more time now?
Which one are we talking about?
P&Z.
HRC?
Oh, HRC.
So for HRC, I did a little bit of digging because we have some attorneys, multiple, that are interested. And given the most recent retreat that they had right before Hurricane Helene, just days before, and the work plan that they were trying to sync up with our council committee, it seemed to me that Bobette Mays would be important as a community leader. David Logan, who's recommended by the chair, but my recommendation would be for Michael Patrick Bigley's application as the 3rd. So I would not want to vote against the slate so much as I would recommend a different 3.
So here's what we'll do. We'll vote on the first 2 and then do a round robin for the 3rd. Is that okay?
Does anybody else have questions?
And I lost the last thing. You were saying that you would support,
Bobette and David.
and that you
There's
have
2
a,
Or,
Davids.
sorry, David Logan.
And
Mays, Logan, and Bigley.
And that there's a third person that's not listed? I got confused.
It's slightly different than the chair's recommendation.
So she's saying, before that gets voted on all three of these together, she supports these two. Do we want to have a vote on calling out our third?
So to be clear, Barbette and
David
David.
Logan.
Logan.
And then your third suggestion is?
Michael.
Bigley.
Michael Bigley.
Who is another applicant that's
Yes.
not here?
Yes.
Okay, all right, that's,
Not,
I just
not
got
only another
confused.
applicant, but there are multiple attorneys, so to avoid confusion, that's why I was using their last names.
Okay, thank you, I just lost a thread, now I got it.
And one thing,
Bigley is also an attorney.
There are multiple attorneys and there are multiple people with the same first name.
And you are correct, Ms. Hayes is not on that anymore.
Okay.
So
Thank
wait,
you.
we cannot reappoint?
No, she can. It's just a note that
Yeah.
says,
Okay.
you know, just in case we were like, we don't want her on too many
Gotcha.
boards, and
Ah.
in case it was giving anybody
Okay.
any
Yeah.
pause.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
and you'll see that note also about, for the Human Relations Commission, that we strive to appoint city residents, but you can appoint up to 3. Currently, there's only 1 non-city resident out of the city council appointments
Okay.
for that board. Going on to the MSD board. So currently, the mayor is serving in that seat and expressed interest in and willingness to be reappointed for that board. For the Multimodal Transportation Commission, there's currently 2 vacancies. And again, that does require city residency for that board. The board recommends Joshua Jones for the at-large seat and Micah McLean for the Greenway reserved seat.
Can we talk about this for just a second, since Micah is on a couple of different ones? Going back to what we were getting ready to talk about
Yeah.
with Bobette, does anyone have a desire to have him on one board over the other?
I
And
actually
if so,
I spoke with him right before this meeting.
mhm,
Because we don't have regular meetings scheduled for either of these boards,
mhm.
but they will have likely some potential work plan assignments. We were talking about the workload. And my understanding is Micah is willing to essentially be that liaison between sustainability and multimodal, which we
Both boards
used
that
to
he wants.
have a required seat from SACE to multimodal, and we no longer do. So I think there's a history of seeing the benefit of that connection.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
just, that's been a conversation on multimodal, and there had been recruitment, and so that could
Okay.
be fantastic.
So then I'll
Keep
okay.
in there.
So, so
So I'll call for the motion as is,
So the
according to
board
the
recommends
recommendation.
Joshua Jones
And
and Micah
Micah.
McLean. And we're not hearing objection to that suggestion. then.
Correct. Yeah.
Therefore, okay, keeping the duplicity.
And
Well,
then we'll-
normally, the multimodal would have been seeking a liaison, so essentially would have been requiring to have somebody fill both spots. It's just an old missing link that we have wanted in the past.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
The Neighborhood Advisory Committee is the next board. So they currently have 4 vacancies. They also have a requirement that the members be residents of the city. And those board seats are designated for certain zip code areas, as well as some at-large seats. And at this time, the chair, Lee Smarter, declined to issue any recommendations. And I sent council an email regarding her expressed concerns about the current pool of applicants and why she was declining to issue recommendations.
So with this one, I feel like it's also the request that we re-advertise as well.
So the board and the board chair, they don't have to provide a recommendation to city council. We always offer them the opportunity to do that. It's not required. So if council decides to fill those seats without a recommendation, they can do so. However, given that she is not issuing a recommendation, she would be seeking that we re-advertise.
Okay, so can we talk about that now, whether we want to just go ahead and re-advertise for?
Who's the chair?
Who's the chair of that board?
Elise Smarter.
Smarter.
Vice Mayor, also, we only have 3 applicants and
Yeah.
there are 4
Yeah.
So we have to
So we
either
might as
way.
well.
Anyway, so.
So can we,
Can I offer some context?
yeah, because of, go ahead.
So as the acting liaison for the Neighborhood Advisory Committee, the way that I was reading the letter is because there haven't been regular meetings, it's been hard to do recruitment and retention. And normally, they have robust conversations about which neighborhoods are missing at the table and who to do outreach with, and they'll make recommendations to attend neighborhood meetings in those zip codes that are missing. So that hasn't been happening. But the way I was reading it is that that lag and the missing conversations mean they don't have the anticipated applicants they normally would have. And that's why I was reading it as a request to reopen the application.
Okay, so as I see it, the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, the Audit Committee, and the Neighborhood Advisory Committee, we're gonna reopen it, or we're gonna re-advertise for all of those?
Correct.
Okay.
Although I think, I like Janet and Lucas Ray.
I actually liked all three applicants, but
Yeah.
I'm also okay with waiting for another month. Let's re-advertise.
That's fine.
Same.
Okay.
The Noise Advisory Board is the next board. So we have one vacancy currently, and the way that the resolution, I believe, or sorry, ordinance is written for that board, we have representation from 3 different geographic areas of the city. So the chair was recommending Dr. Wursel for appointment. So on her application, you may have noted that she classified herself as a North Asheville resident. However, her zip code is 28801. So she's kind of right on the border of downtown, kind of near Charlotte Street. So given, it's a little bordery. So
Yeah, I think
That's North Asheville.
mhm.
I mean, if you're north of
Yeah.
downtown.
But it's still 28801.
Yeah, all of
Mhm.
Montford is
Montford
28801.
is too, and I couldn't
Yeah.
open the
Everything up to
application.
the Jewish Community Centers.
Yeah, I'm
28801.
Yeah,
Yeah, so the
So I
other,
feel like that's fine.
That doesn't really bother me.
I know.
the other board member who's the
She's already-
North
I
Asheville
don't-
resident
She's already got the thing.
is Rick, or sorry, not Rick Friedman, Reb Haslett, the chair. And Reb, I believe, is 28804, so he's much further north, almost on the border of the city limits. So
Okay,
different zip codes, different areas, but again, yeah, to your point,
okay.
may or may not be eligible, given that they're both in the north area of town. The Planning and Zoning Commission currently has one vacancy. And the chair, there's a number of different recommendations from the different populations. So the chair is recommending Jonathan Anzalito, Randall Barnett, and Michael Speciale. The board as a whole is recommending Michael Pessant and Seth Armstrong Connolly. And then city staff is providing the recommendation of
Yeah, we want
Lindsay
Brawl.
Brothel and Julia Dwyer. So
So for, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
So for this one, I guess the first question is, do we want to interview?
Yes.
Yes.
And then the second question is, how many do we want to interview? I'll go ahead and say I'm not really interested in interviewing everybody.
All of them?
How does 3 sound? Does that sound like too few?
Well, I know that there are 3, if not 4, I'd like to interview, so
There were 4 on my list,
it might be a 4.
especially since we only have 1 current vacancy.
Okay,
Yeah, I think
We might have 2 by then.
so,
I don't know if it's, everyone shares the same 4, I think that's
right,
where we
and
got it.
so we'll have to figure that out at the meeting, I guess.
Well, we can tell Maggie now.
Well, I mean, my 3 of mine are these first 3 chair recommendations. My 4th is the staff recommendation, Brawl, Lindsay Brahel. I don't know how you say her name.
Google.
Brawl.
Well,
Does that happen to
do
be
we,
anybody else's?
because I thought we didn't vote in these meetings.
At this point in time, do you just have, no, we want to interview, you want to interview for, and at the council meeting?
Yes.
You
It's
go
full.
and say, who's the 4 you want to interview?
So let's think about that, because, yes, do we want to come, I'm trying to think of how to do that, because what if my third choice is really someone else's first choice, and then you end up getting someone's
Well,
more for.
we used to interview quite frequently, and we basically, the way we did it is we would basically interview anybody that
Yeah.
that anybody wanted to be interviewed.
Okay,
So, I mean, typically, we had agreement around 2, 3, 4 people, but there might be a fifth or sixth person that just 1 or 2 people wanted to interview,
Okay.
and we just indulge that.
so then maybe not the number of 4, it's just everybody.
The who?
I
That's
don't,
kind of
I don't
what
actually
we've
have
done.
4.
So really,
I'm
I
gonna
could just say 1.
Yeah, and
Is that what we're
I-
saying?
I have 3,
Yes.
I'm gonna say 3,
Yeah,
but.
it's just awkward to interview 6 people for only one
Okay.
seat. It's just
We might have
awkward
2.
having to tell the other people, you know, hey, come in, but yeah, there's only 1 seat available.
They could.
Possibly
decline.
2.
Yeah.
Right? I was
I mean, if,
saying.
yeah, if they watch the council meeting, like, only one person wanted to interview me, I don't think I'm gonna go through the effort, then
Yeah.
that's fine.
Right,
That's
right.
fair.
Okay, so we'll interview, and then we'll just go down and everyone lists who he or she wants to interview. Okay. And then so,
Okay,
okay.
perfect.
Cool.
Thank you. The interviews would be before the meeting, not at the end, right?
Ahead of the meeting, yeah.
And I believe we have a closed session on that date as well.
Should we have breakfast too?
Sleepover? Slumber party?
I
Lock it in the
just learned
chambers.
that dress code at somebody's child's school, maybe it was yours, is no pajamas.
Yes, but
That's
today was pajama day. It's the only day they get to do it, but the rest of the time,
Okay.
no pajamas. And you can't wear blankets. The principal notified everybody.
That seems like a fire
Oh,
hazard.
geez.
So onward and upward with your uplifting
Soil
news,
erosion.
soil and erosion, tell us about the soil erosion.
So the Soil Erosion and Stormwater Control Board, this board has actually never met,
Ever?
ever. Correct, yes.
It's not
There's,
like we have a problem with that. Soil erosion or stormwater.
it gets triggered in specific circumstances when they review decisions made by the stormwater director.
Yeah, it's some very
kinda like-
specific
Yeah.
reason they might need.
But it's
to meet.
never, ever, ever functioned?
Because, no, it
Yeah.
doesn't need to meet, because it's only triggered when there's, say it again, Alex.
It's an
I-
appeal from a decision from the stormwater director.
I heard
Civil
that, but,
services.
So
but
it's
there
not
has
been
never
appealed.
been a repeat. So is this the time to just say, do we need this? Is this
look at the
regulatorily
recommendation.
required?
Recommendation is get rid of it.
There's a recommendation that
Okay.
says get rid of it.
Yeah. We're good. I think we're good.
homework there, Internet.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you,
So, because this board has never met, and the current members, they've been, I think they're both on their 5th terms on the board. They
Real
weren't
resume
interested
booster.
in continuing in their membership. We also didn't receive applications for it. That our recommendation would be, staff's recommendation would be that we would not make appointments at this time, and that we cease continuing to advertise and make appointments to this board until such time as it actually is needed or is being called upon to meet.
So what action do you need from us?
Direction that we would see, we would not, like the clerk's office would not re-advertise for these seats
Is
again.
that something we could do now without a vote? Brett?
but we're not officially dissolving the committee or anything. We're just choosing not to appoint any positions.
I would take this information as for your awareness, and I think Alex is looking to see if you have an objection to that awareness.
I don't have an objection.
No objection.
We've been made aware, we don't object.
Okay. So,
Getting to the end, y'all, I
Thank you.
promise. Sustainability Advisory Committee, this board currently has 4 vacancies, and the staff chair and vice chair recommend Margaret Chandler, Sophie Loeb, Micah McLean, so you'll notice that name again, as we mentioned earlier, and Sarah Toohey for appointment. They also note that Elizabeth Ecke is a strong alternative candidate, and that was partially in regard to Micah being, having multiple applications on file.
so then are we okay, y'all, with me calling for a motion for Margaret, Sophie, and Micah on this one?
And Sarah,
And Sarah?
yes.
Okay.
And last but not least, the Urban Forestry Commission has 3 current vacancies, and the chair and vice chair are recommending Don Chavez, Michael Fisher, and Ed Macy for appointment.
Do you know, has Ed Macy's, has he served on this before?
Yes,
Yeah.
but it was in a, I think it was in the Greenworks seat. There was like an appointment. It wasn't like the the body voted on it so much as there was an appointment allocated for the organization.
Got it.
Yeah, the Urban Forestry does have a couple ex officio seats, to your point.
He's
Because Don Chavez is
so
also-
technical. He knows, I mean, he's probably the most expert person in our region, so I'm glad to have him back.
Don Chavez is also in a similar situation as the former executive director of Asheville Greenworks, so this is the first time we would be formally appointing both Don and Ed.
So in summary, when we have the council meeting tonight and the vice mayor is chairing this portion, we will be asked to select for the African American Heritage Commission between McPeters or Gordon. And we do need to pay special attention to the Human Relations Commission to go with Ms. Mays and Logan, and then selecting a third. So take a look at that. But otherwise, I think.
Yep.
pretty
MPZC.
And then
Those are the three.
we do have a hand that.
We have to do the super boards, is that what we're calling
Yeah.
them?
Recovery committees,
Super
as staff
boards?
wants to call them.
And so everyone has already given feedback to the clerk's office.
Yeah.
We'll need to vote on the designees from the board. So I'll request a motion for those first under each
Yeah,
board,
the ones that are already the designees,
Right.
yes, okay.
assuming, those aren't controversial.
Yeah.
And then for the other boards, you already have the list with the numbers by them.
Yeah.
I'll let you take another look. And then some of them have met a requisite bar to be who pushes through. Because there's a limit of 11, right? And some of those have already been decided because they're the vice chairs or designees. There are a few where there are those who automatically are pushed through based on the feedback. And then there's a sub-tier where there's a tie. So amongst those who are the ties, I'll tell you those names.
Oh, that's how
And
you're
then you'll
thinking about it.
pick amongst,
The ties.
Are you telling us now, or are you telling us then?
Well, you can take a look at
Well,
this.
you can take a look when,
Okay.
It's
For
just
the
that,
rec-
it's the one with Kim's feedback.
yeah, I just want to explain what's gonna
Yeah.
happen, otherwise, when it happens, it'll be what?
So it'll be like, I propose everyone with a score of blah, 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 or higher goes forward.
And I'll read their
then-
names.
Okay.
And for the record, I submitted my poll to the clerk and the vice chair during this public meeting.
Yes.
That's why there's new information.
Great. And that we could see before we get there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I am.
So just to like shortcut this for, but we don't have
We don't
Kim's.
have-
Okay, so I just, okay, all right. That's helpful.
Yeah, I'll let you see it.
So there's a bunch of
Okay, are you
tabs.
telling us more things?
No
or
more
we're-
topics on the agenda, so that
Oh,
concludes the
okay.
meeting.
All right.
Okay, we're adjourned for 30 minutes. Until we meet again.
Because it's each committee.
Aha.